how to create demand for your products, right? How to create demand for your products. And over time, it has been discovered that sales responds to the law of demand and supply, right? And it's very basic. It's very basic. You see that when there is enough demand for a product, you see that selling of that product becomes very easy, right? So that is why we chose to start this course with a teaching on how to create demand for your products. And then to start, I want to bring to our attention a law, a science law that also has something to offer in line with sales. And that is the Newton's law, right? They call it the Newton's law of motion. And it's a basic law that we all know. It states that an object will remain in its state of rest until an external force is applied to it, right? An object will remain in a state of rest until an external force is applied to it, okay? And when it is brought down to sales, what it simply means is that your sales will remain what it has always been until something external happens to it. Whatever volume you are generating, whatever amount of sales you're able to make every month as a small business owner, that will stay that way until something external, something serious happens. And in sales, that external thing that will happen for your sales to increase is that demand for your product must increase. You must find a way to increase demand for your product. So you see, for example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, you see that before COVID-19, we have people, especially pharmacy people, that sell some products like nose mask and the rest of them. You see hand sanitizer and all of that. They were in circulation. They were in sales all through for ages. But all of a sudden, COVID came. And then you notice that you come into a shop and then you spend 2, 3, 4, 5 hours in a pharmacy and 20 people come into the pharmacy, you will discover that a good number of them will be demanding for nose mask or sanitizer, one of those products. What happened? Demand for that product increased because of COVID. That is a very simple explanation of how demand can impact on your sales. So you see that people that used to sell, maybe a shop or a store that used to sell 200 pieces of nose mask in a month, now wakes up during a COVID month and he sells 2,000. He sells 3,000. Or some serious number. Some people, in fact, actually built their business throughout that COVID era around nose mask and hand sanitizer, right? You now see that out of the blues, you enter any mall, you see nose mask, you see sanitizer, because it's a product that was high in demand. So as a business owner, if you want to increase your sales volume, if you want to increase what you generate as revenue, you must learn how to create demand for the product that you are selling. It's so simple that when demand increases, people no longer care about the price of your products even. What you sell it does not matter anymore. So you see, before COVID, nose mask and all of that were sold at a fraction of the amount that they went on to sell it during COVID, right? That's because it became a necessary product. It became something that everybody wanted to have. Everybody needed to make use of and all that. And it's not even only nose mask and hand sanitizer, a lot of other things. A lot of other things, all right? So that is why this course is important. How do you create demand? How do you create demand for your product? How do you create demand for your product? So we're going to be discussing the triangle of demand. The triangle of demand, right? This is a marketing and sales concept that shows you a triangle that contains three major pillars or three major strategies that one can deploy as a small business owner to create massive demand for your product, right? And then on this side of the triangle, we have education. I'm going to explain all of this later. We have education, or some call it educational strategy. Educational strategy. Right? That's the first. On the other side of the triangle, we have the scarcity strategy. Scarcity strategy. Then, on the base, we now have innovative campaign. So, this is how to create sales demand for your product. This is how to create sales demand for your product. So on this side, we have educational strategy. On this other side, we have the scarcity strategy. And then on this side, you have the innovative campaign strategy. So we're going to be taking it one by one. The first one we'll be discussing is the educational strategy. Educational strategy, right? So educational strategy is a very solid, proven strategy that you can use to create massive demand for your product. It's a solid strategy that you can use to create solid demand, heavy demand for your product. And then I'm going to explain it to you. When you go on social media or you go on the internet space or wherever, you see that one of the major things, one of the first steps that companies, product owners, right, institutions, even government, whoever it is, one of the first thing you will notice is that when they want to launch a product, when they want to push out a product in the market, or when they want to sell more of something, they begin to educate people about it, right? Because the more people know, the more people get aware of what product you have, the problem it solves, and all of that, the more you are creating demand for your product. So you see that when a product is coming into the market, whether a phone, whether technology, whatever it is, the first thing you see is that you begin to see massive education, massive sensitization about the product. That is simply using educational strategy. For instance, some months back, the Nigerian banks began to call investors, right, because of the recapitalization efforts or recapitalization exercise that was going on. Now, the banks needed people to buy a lot of shares so that they can mop up funds, scoop funds from the masses, and be able to meet up with the exercise. So the only option they had was to go and get the masses, go and get the public to come and buy shares in the bank. But one of the strategies they used to create a lot of demand for the product, which now in this instance is the shares, is that they unleashed a lot of people. So you go on social media, you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram and all that. You see all of these advisors, all of these guys that advise on investing and all of that. They began to capitalize on teaching people about shares, teaching people how to buy shares. All of them, I saw them and I could tell that these things were efforts by the banks to make sure that the masses get to understand why it is important that they buy shares. And then once they understand that, it becomes very easy for them to now buy shares, right? So you see everybody use it. It's a very solid strategy. And there are a few steps you need to take when you want to develop the educational strategy. The first step is that you do what we call problem research. Problem research. You need to first of all research on the problem that the product you want to sell solves, right? Every product either solves a problem or takes away a pain. If your product is not solving a problem or is not taking away pains, then that product is not a valid product. All right? A product must be solving problem or it must be taking away pain. So you need to do a research on the problem that this your product solves, right? And for you to carry out that research, there are a few questions I listed here that you must ask yourself. Number one is you need to ask yourself, what are the problems that my ideal customers have? That is what your product is here to solve. You must be able to define the problem clearly. If you find out the problem, you know the problem that this product you want to sell, this product you want to create demand for, you know the exact problem it solves, you are getting close. The second one is you ask yourself, what pain does my ideal client have? These are the things that when you get answers to them, they will fuel the educational content you are going to be publishing, right? Because sometimes, even some of these problems, people have them, but they don't know how serious that problem is. But through your educational efforts, you'll be able to highlight it to the extent that they can tell. All right? You see, for instance, in this year and age, everybody is carrying a water bottle. You come into a place and you see 20 people sitting together. You look on the ground, you see water bottle everywhere. But many years ago, it was not like that. Until the people that produce all of this water bottle began to carry out campaign and began to teach us how we are dying because we are not drinking water. Whether it is true or not, nobody knows, right? But the moment that education came as a result of research, and they are now showing us statistics, this number of people died this year because they are dehydrated. Dehydration causes this one, causes that one. Massive education around it now changed our behavior, changed our culture. You now see that we carry water bottle around everywhere we are. Okay, so that's why it's important to know what your product solves, because that's what your education will center around. The third question you need to ask yourself is, how does my product solve this problem or take away the pain? How does my product solve this problem or take away the pain? Yes, this product solves the problem, but how? How? Right? You need to answer that question. And the next is you ask yourself, what solution leads to or exposes the need for your product? You see, in the product chain, we have what we call the product solution loop, right? What happens most times is that you solve one problem only to create another problem. In every solution is another problem. Every solution has another problem in it. So you see, something like inverter, for instance, solar inverter, solve the problem of electricity, right? And then when they invented solar and all of that, it replaced a lot of things. But now solar as a solution to the electricity problem comes with a lot of problems that other people need to develop products to solve. Right? So you see, over time, they discovered that battery for the solar system becomes an important subject. So many people are now developing solutions for batteries that last longer. Right? And so many other things. Now, I even heard that there is an issue with leakages of roof as a result of solar. When you install solar panel and all that, people are now looking for solutions to that problem, right? So every solution you have to give have a problem it comes with. So your product, the product you want to sell, the product you want to create a demand for, what is it that when people do, what problem is it that when people solve, the next need they will have is now your product? What is it that when people solve it, the next problem it will expose them to is now your product? For instance, you cannot talk about maybe having, selling an application, for instance. Not sell an application without solving the problem of owning a phone first, right? Because anybody that will make use of your application must own a phone.